The year was 1972. Los Angeles shimmered under a haze of heat and smog, a city of dreams for some, but a pressure cooker for many. The news spoke of distant wars, but right here a different kind of war was brewing, one born in our own neighborhoods. Its soldiers were young, its colors just being chosen. Soon the world would know them as the Crips and the Bloods. Most people think they know this story: colors, symbols, music, violence. But the truth is far more complex, more human, and infinitely more tragic. This isn't just a story of crime. It's a story of America, of promises broken, communities abandoned, and young men trying to build something for themselves when the world gave them nothing. The narrative you've been sold is a shadow play, hiding the real faces and pain behind the headlines. What if, in the beginning, the impulse was not to destroy, but to protect? What if the foundation was a desperate search for brotherhood and belonging? This is not an apology for the violence. The pain and loss are real. But it is an invitation to understand how something that began with hope spiraled into tragedy. To find answers, we must look past the smoke and see the fire that started it all. My purpose is not to sensationalize or judge, but to bear witness. I've seen the headlines fade and the stories become myth. My goal is to peel back those layers and get to the heart of the matter. This is not just another crime documentary. We're here to understand how the structure failed in the first place. We'll walk back in time to a Los Angeles few remember and listen to the echoes of silenced voices. The story of the Crips and Bloods is a human story. Flawed individuals making desperate choices in impossible circumstances. We must set aside preconceptions and see not just gang members, but sons, brothers and neighbours. This is a journey into the soul of a city and into the deeper truths of what it means to be forgotten. We'll explore the people, places and policies that created the vacuum these gangs would fill. This story deserves more than a passing glance. It demands our empathy and willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. By looking back, perhaps we can find a better way to move forward, together. To understand the 1970s, you must first understand the 1960s. South Central was once a place of hope, built by black families seeking refuge from the South and chasing good jobs. Factories like Goodyear and General Motors provided stable work and a path to the middle class. The streets were alive with families and children. But by the late 1960s, the factories closed, jobs vanished, and the promise of upward mobility evaporated. The civil rights movement brought legislative victories, but on the ground, segregation, poverty, and police brutality persisted. Disillusionment grew. The older generation's message of patience felt out of step with the anger of the youth. New influences emerged, groups like the Black Panthers and US organization offering self-defense and black pride. They organized breakfast programs and patrolled neighborhoods, providing order and protection the state failed to deliver. But as government programs dismantled these organizations, another void was created. The youth learned that organization meant power. Street clubs evolved, no longer just social but territorial and defensive. They became the first true street gangs, a desperate attempt to create order and safety on their own terms. This was the fertile ground from which the Crips and Bloods would soon spring. Amid this turmoil, a teenager named Raymond Washington emerged, a charismatic leader inspired by the Black Panthers' power and unity. He wanted to create something for his own generation, starting with the baby avenues, which soon became the Crips. The name's origin is debated, but the blue bandana became their symbol. Raymond's vision was about protection and power on a local level, not citywide dominance. He modelled the Crips on the Panthers, a structured group to unite youth and protect the community. Young men, feeling powerless, flocked to join. The Crips expanded rapidly, offering respect and belonging. But as the organization grew, Raymond's vision began to fray. The Crips' size and decentralized nature made control impossible. The focus shifted from protection to territorial dominance. The brotherhood Raymond envisioned was transforming into something far more dangerous. The seeds of a citywide conflict had been sown. As the Crips spread, not every neighborhood wanted to be absorbed. Smaller gangs saw the Crips as bullies, not protectors. The Piru Street Boys, led by Sylvester Scott, were among the most prominent independent gangs. At first, the Pirus had a fragile alliance with the Crips, but as aggression grew, they realized they were in danger. In 1972, Scott and the Pirus called together other independent gangs, Brims, Bishops, Denver Lanes, to form a united front. They put aside rivalries and formed the Bloods, choosing red as their symbol, a defiant contrast to Crip blue. The name Blood declared their bond brothers in a shared struggle. Unlike the Crips, the Bloods were a coalition from the start, formed out of self-preservation, not aggression. The city was now divided, and the stage was set for a conflict that would define Los Angeles for decades. The battle lines were drawn. The war for survival had begun. In the early days, tension between Crips and Bloods simmered. Skirmishes, stare-downs, fistfights after school. A blue bandana in a red neighborhood, or vice versa, could have violent consequences. The city became a checkerboard of invisible lines. Crossing one could be fatal. The brotherhood both sides sought was now defined by who you were against. The conflict escalated, fights over territory, respect, or even a perceived slight. The founders, Washington and Scott, were still influential, but the movements had grown beyond their control. The introduction of firearms changed everything. What was once a fistfight could now end in death. Retaliation became relentless. Each death demanded another. The original reasons, protection, community, identity, were lost in a haze of violence. Police crackdowns often made things worse, deepening alienation and pushing youth further into gangs. The city was a tinderbox, and everyone was holding a match. In 1972, a party in Crip territory became a point of no return. Bloods, including a member of the Brims, attended a bold move. A confrontation erupted. In the chaos, a Brim was beaten and killed by Crips. This was more than a street brawl. It was a line crossed, a declaration of war. News of the murder spread like wildfire, uniting bloodsets in outrage and a thirst for revenge. The unspoken rules were shattered. The conflict was now about life and death. The murder became the foundational myth of the war, fueling endless retaliation. The dream of brotherhood and defence curdled into a nightmare. The party was over. The war had begun in earnest. Violence engulfed the city, scarring Los Angeles for generations. A single night had changed everything. The war that began in 1972 has raged for over half a century, costing thousands of lives, most of them young men of colour. Families have been torn apart, Communities live in fear, and the wound on the city's soul has never healed. The founders themselves were not spared. Raymond Washington was killed at 25. Sylvester Scott's path led to prison. The gangs became decentralized networks, far removed from their original purpose. Their legacy is a paradox: criminality and suffering, but also a symptom of deeper societal failure. The gangs provided identity, belonging, and family in a world that offered little else. This does not excuse the violence, but it helps explain it. The tragedy is that the need for brotherhood was channeled into a war of self-destruction. The legacy is a painful reminder of what happens when a community's cry for help goes unanswered. As we end this reflection, remember, understanding this history is not glorifying it. There is no honour in the pain inflicted or the potential lost. The story of the Crips and Bloods is a mirror, reflecting uncomfortable truths about our society. It shows the consequences of poverty, racism, and neglect. When we abandon our youth, they create their own structures, and we may not like what they build. To dismiss this as just another tale of thugs is to ignore our collective responsibility. The truth is messy, complicated, and painful, but in that complexity we find our shared humanity. Let this story be a reminder. Behind every colour and headline, there are human beings. Let us learn from our past, not by repeating its mistakes, but by facing it and committing to a different future. Only by understanding the roots of conflict can we hope to find lasting peace.